Hey guys. Earlier today I was bored for a couple of hours, and today I had my second dose of the COVID vaccine, so I need to stay at home and not do anything that's too taxing. I figured I would buy the t95 weapons and mess around with them. The first thing I want to do is kind of a fat disclaimer that, I bought these today. I don't think that there is an actual game-wide consensus on how to use them properly. I think it's probably going to be adaptable because they're a little bit more dynamic now. I made up my own circ rotation because I think that's more fun than reading someone else's, and if you want to take my word for it, then go ahead and do so. This works quite well. I'm just saying that there may be better options about this, to go about this coming along, and if you really care about the development of that, then read PVME. Also, a combination shoutout and a thank you to the user Zanderwar. He guested my clan chat the other day and offered me this overlay that you see above my head, the ability tracker, for free. It is a service that he does charge for. I think it was $3 a month, but don't quote me on that. There will be a link to the website with a more complete description than I can give you right now down below in the description. I really don't take my word for it when it comes to anything code, because I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to programming. The way that I had this explained to myself was that it is based on screen data and it's a part of the Alt1 plugin toolkit rather than just a straight up keylogger that you register your different types of keybinds to. So far I've thought it was pretty sick. There are a couple bugs and it's still kind of a work in progress that I assume will get better over time. But if you're interested in having a tool like this to track whatever you're doing, then I think it's a pretty cool option. And what you see here on screen is the rotation that I figured out. This is designed around doing the 5-minute challenge gems or DPS gems that I've talked about in my previous video, something that we do in my clan as a metric of DPM performance in different styles. I was curious of how the new weapons, with the addition of Destroy and Hurricane not sharing a cooldown anymore and some other stuff, especially the t95 damage base, but also the Gloves of Passage buff to Havoc and bleed damage would implement in a long duration rotation like this, and I was also curious to see what kind of impact it would have on a gem. What I made up is basically this. I know this probably looks like a lot, but let me just drag you through what's going on here. This is the span over 1 minute, and there are the little sort of rinse-repeat marks at the end of each segment. There is a orange marking, or like a frame marking of glowing orange for whenever you have a damage buff active, which would be from using Havoc or from using the Crate of Fury. And then there's a sort of not very specific bleed buff duration line that's supposed to show you give or take over which segment Havoc buffs would do 20% more damage to your active bleeds. Bleeds in this case are actually bleeds, by the way. They don't include damage over times like bled abilities by Greater Barge, so don't waste your time trying to figure that out. What I wanted to do was figure out a way that you could do basically the same thing, just with mild modifications between your Berserk and your CGS. I wanted to have clear mid-sections between the two that would easily follow next to each other, and I was trying to anyway. I haven't done any math on this, just went off of what I think and know from prior. Trying to do this in a way that would take as much advantage out of the new items and buffs as possible without being absolutely disgusting and involving a bunch of glove switching or whatever. Obviously you can do that, I'm not going to. So this would be applicable wherever you're not using Cinderbane gloves. Starting out, I'm gonna start over by the Berserk, because everything ties together at the end here and repeats. Starting with the Berserk, you have a normal barge into a flank, then you bleed your assault, but instead of going for a Hurricane or a Flurry like you previously did, after you bleed your assault, you go into just channeling a normal Destroy. Then when the Destroy is over, there's going to be space for 2 basic abilities that I haven't listed here, because obviously this is Adren reliant. So the next key step after those 2 abilities would be a Havoc before a Hurricane. That would buff the Hurricane with a 10% damage boost on the next tick. Since Hurricane will hit twice in the same tick, you'll get the buff on both hits. The Havoc would also strengthen your bleeds after the Berserk rotation is up, as you can see by the purple line above. But after the Hurricane, you'll have your final flank as the last ability in your Berserk. Then you put your Masterwork Spear on if you have one of those. You throw out a Blood Tendril and then a Lunge 4, obviously, because you have the spear. A Lunge 4 on a spear is pretty standard. A Blood Tendril and a Dismember. And then you build up to high Adren, so you could step off and drop your CGS for a CGS spec rebarge. And last thing you do before you step off the target is you Havoc again, so you get the 10% damage boost on your Greater Barge, which is your strongest hitting ability as far as I know anyway. So you Havoc, you step off the target, you anticipate, you drop the CGS by clicking on the ground so you don't run up to your target and auto-attacking, then you rebarge. Instead of Bleeding Assault as the first thing you do a Greater Fury, then you hopefully do a Fat Flank, because these two combined can deliver some really high hits. Then, at the end of your damage over time effect time window, you bleed your assault, you channel a full destroy, similar to what you did in the Berserk rotation. You do one basic to cancel the destroy, jump onto another Havoc, and then finish with a Havoc boosted Hurricane. Same thing as in the Berserk rotation, the Havoc that you did to boost the Hurricane will also have a bleed duration where your next couple of bleeds are going to be buffed by 20% for 10 seconds. So after the CGS spec is up, you can slam out a Dismember and your Blood Tendril will be off cooldown, or on cooldown still from after the Berserk. So in this case, if you have a Dren for it, you can do a Slaughter. Then you will re-Havoc, you'll step off, and you will do the Anticipate Berserk thing and repeat everything again, and you'll just do this over and over. Following here is a clip of me doing all these things in sequence, slowed down so that I can explain what's going on again. So here you see me Havocing the dummy just to represent that finishing Havoc at the end of this cycle. I step off the dummy and I start with my Berserk into Barge and then Flank. Then I bleed my Assault. I channel my Destroy. And when the Destroy icon says 1 second left, then I try to cancel it with the basic ability. Do one more basic. And then I do my Havoc in preparation for the Hurricane. A Cane. And then I flank on the last second of my Circ. Put my Masterwork Spear on to my Blood Tendril, my Dismember, another couple basics, Havocing, stepping off, CGSing, and then barging. Here's my Greater Fury. My crit affected basic after the Greater Fury, which was the flank. Then I bleed my Assault. I repeat, fully casting the Destroy. Cancelling it with the basic. Then Havoc in preparation of my Hurricane. Throw my Spear on again, because now my bleeds are buffed. One more normal basic before the CGS runs out. And then a Slaughter. Another Havoc before stepping off. Offing my normal Anticipation, and then Berserk. And what would now be a Barge, and repeating the whole process. Now is a clip following the exact same thing, but just in real time instead, so that you can see what this looks like normally. This was also everything I wanted to show everyone today. I haven't made anything that's going to be resembling the meaty Melee guide that I did a year ago or something. I may add another chapter to it. I haven't decided yet, but this was really fun to fiddle with, and I really wanted to show it off. So, yeah, take it for what it is. A early on sort of mini guide of my thoughts on what I'm experiencing with the new weapons and what I'm going to be trying to implement in PVM going forward. The things that I want to try out for the first couple projects is probably Elite Dungeon 2 and Terrakit specifically. I want to implement the juicy t95 special attack, and I want to do that for places that can stack the most amount of damage buffs together at the same time, hoping for some 20.4Ks. I also want to experiment with Essence of Finality amulets, but I think what I'm going to be settling for is probably a Dragon Claw and a Dragon Longsword. More on that later though when I've decided. And I hope everyone has a nice day.